Welcome back to another episode of the Goonery. Brandon and I here. Today we're going to be doing things a little bit different. We're a little change of pace in the show today. We're going to be running some mock drafts on the show here. Three
Hell
rounds,
yeah.
nothing crazy. Brandon brought up the idea. I loved it. I think it's a different way to spice up us talking about the draft here. So the way Brandon and I kind of planned on doing this, we're going to do one simulation on our own where we perform no trades, a simulation with trades, and then we're going to run through at the end and we're going to run through and do a draft together. Brandon, the floor is yours. I would love to see how you kind of took this. We'll go back and forth pick by pick. How about
Sure.
that? How we end up round by round.
Okay, so do we want to start with no trades or with trades?
Let's start with no trades.
Gotcha.
I mean, realistically, let's be honest. I think that the Bears are going to be ending up trading that ninth pick.
Under conditions, I think so. Under conditions.
I think where there's smoke, there's fire, and I would not be surprised to see it dealt. But for simplicity's sake, let's start out with no trades, and then we'll go from there.
Gotcha. Okay, so I did to give people more insight of what we have done. So this comes under the pretenses of PFF being weird and stopping people from making mock drafts for free. They're charging for you to do mock drafts now, and Lord knows as many mock drafts as I've done, it's to a point where I need to draft to come because I think I'm driving myself absolutely mental. But I've done a lot of mock drafts. So how we did it is I did one for PFF and I did one for Pro Football Network. So we're gonna start off with the PFF one with the no trades and let me just say, there is a very, very big difference in how the two see the draft going. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I picked for my first pick in the PFF draft, Paris Johnson Jr., which was the most simplistic, safest pick that you could do. Mm-hmm. I know there's been a lot of smoke about a guy that I'm going to get into a little bit later, but I feel like when it comes to the continuity with his former college teammate, Justin Fields, Paris Johnson, it's almost a no-brainer. There's a lot of options right there, and I think that's the beauty of being in a ninth position to pick is that the options are all on the table. You have Skoronski, you have Jones, and you have Darnell Wright. It's a perfect position to be in, and if the Bears are indeed going to stay there, and if there's no trades and Jalen Carter's off the board, yeah, you PFF and you want to be stingy with your money, Paris Johnson is the way to go.
So realistically, I think Paris Johnson is who the Bears end up with at 9 if they stay put there. I was lucky enough to somehow get Jalen Carter with my selection at 9. Realistically, I don't see that happening, but in my hypothetical simulation here, Jalen Carter's on the board, and he is, for my money, the best defensive prospect in this draft, bar none. And that's the type of game wrecker you get at defensive tackle that just completely transforms your defense, at least what he's being billed as and what we're all expecting him to be. With that being said, Paris Johnson is realistic. And I don't think that any Bear fans would necessarily be upset by that pick. And if they are, they're crazy. They're crazy if they are, because there are, in my opinion, the two most glaring holes on this team are that they need to find a bookend tackle and they need to solidify that defensive line. Absolutely. First and foremost, those are the first two things that needs to be addressed here in the draft. And if the offensive line and the defensive line are not the first two things addressed here in the draft, I will be genuinely surprised.
Yes, but I also wouldn't. And because how I see it is this, because I'm going to get into my selections for both drafts that I made, but I think with the value you can get in terms of offensive tackle, because for my money's worth, now I want to keep this in mind for a lot of people that's watching. A lot of the prospects that I drafted were me watching film. I go on Twitter threads and I watch what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. And I did a lot of research on the guys that I've seen that are going within the top 60. I've seen I see for who the Bears have brought in for top 30 visits, all
Mhm.
that stuff. So when I look at that, I also look for scheme fit too. The scheme is very similar to what the 49ers were in, which is why the Bears targeted Mike McGlinchey. And there's a couple of guys there that kind of fit the Mike McGlinchey mold per se. So that's why if it was to become the case, if the Bears were to wait till their second round pick, or maybe even their third round pick, it honestly would not surprise me. It's just a matter of which prospect is it, and is it going to be a project like a Braxton Jones was, even though he was probably penciled in the starter from day one,
Yeah.
turned out to be a solid starter, but it's also something you don't want to continually bank on as well.
Mhm. No, for sure, for sure, and it's a fairly deep class on the offensive line as well. So, I
Yes.
mean, you're gonna have options throughout, and with, uh with my trade when we get into the trades, I think we'll kind of expound upon that a little bit and my logic there. So, kinda wanna bounce over into round 2 now. This is where I decided, Brandon, to address the offensive line. I said I'd be surprised to see, Poles and company not address the offense and defensive line in the first 2 rounds, and with the 53rd selection, I have the Bears selecting John Michael Schmitz, the center from Minnesota, and I know that that is not flashy, but god, is he fucking talented.
You would want a guy because there's three offensive linemen from the Big Ten that could go in the second round.
Mhm.
Joe Tipman, John Michael Schmitz, Luke Weipler.
Yep.
And that is there's this stigma around offensive linemen from the Big Ten that they're big, they're nasty, and they just
Mhm.
their business is in the trenches. And John Michael Schmitz is the guy that I feel as though is the a top 5 lineman, top 10 lineman. I'm not even talking about just
Yeah.
relative to offensive tackle, guard, whatever. He may be a top 10 offensive lineman in this draft. And
Yeah.
if you get it with the 53rd, because more and more unlikely, he's not going to be there. In mind with the trades, I actually end up getting them at 53. If that happens, that's a dream scenario. If you ask
Yeah.
me, that's a dream scenario. But we're going to talk about trenches.
Mhm.
And for number 53, because I'm gonna say with the utmost confidence that Ryan Poles is playing to the heaven above that Jalen Carter is going to drop to 9. But let's say he doesn't drop to 9.
Mhm.
Where do you go from there? You have to get the second best nose tackle in this draft, Keanu Benton from Wisconsin at number 53. You swoop him up as quick as possible because I'm telling you, he's going to be one of those guys. You're going to hear his name a lot within this week and the next week. A fast rising guy that violent heads, very athletic for his size.
Mhm.
And you don't hear about him a lot because defensive tackles, they don't get the love. Jalen Carter just happens to be
No,
one of
it's
the
just
ones that's just
yeah.
flashy enough to where he will jump off and take whatever game you're watching.
Mhm.
Keanu Benson is one of those guys. And if Poles miss out on Carter, I'm sure he will be extremely happy getting Benson at 53.
And he is for he's a big motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
Benton. I mean, he's all of six. I think he's a 6'5", 320 guy, maybe.
Yeah.
He is,
Mound of a man.
yeah, and that's in my opinion what you're seeing become the more prototypical defensive tackle in the NFL. You're not seeing a lot of guys like, I mean, a name that just popped into my head, Andrew Billings. And I,
Yes.
I mean, like you're not seeing many of those
That
anymore.
dude is huge.
You're not seeing many 6', 375 nose guards or defensive tackles anymore. And I Benton's a guy who I could see being his size alone, I feel like he could potentially end up being an edge guy eventually as well. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just feel it's I'm not gonna say it's a gamble of a pick because the potential is obviously there. The potential is there. He was successful at Wisconsin. He still there leaves a little something to be desired, and I'm always a little nervous of people who shoot up boards like that.
Yeah.
But it's warranted. It is warranted for him in this case, and he'll end up being a decent pro, I think. And I think the Bears are happy if you're able to land him there at 53.
Absolutely.
So I also kind of moving on to my next selection here. I've mentioned this name before on the show. At 61, I have the Bears taking Tyreek Stevenson, the corner from Miami.
Yeah.
And I've seen his film. I haven't. I'm the first to admit I'm not in the trenches as much as you are with the draft. I read, I watch enough, and Tyreek Stevenson's someone who stood out to me so far, and I don't necessarily know if he'll end up being a true lockdown corner, but he's got great size and he's a damn good athlete. So
Yes.
he has the build of a modern NFL quarterback. I mean, I believe he's 6 foot, 6'1", about 210, and good again, good athlete. His 10-yard split it's like a 1-4, I believe. And I mean, off the line, you need that. It's super athlete. I would love that pick. I don't know if he lasts that far, but he's another guy who I kind of see, depending on how, because there's a lot of talent at the cornerback position early in this draft. And depending on how early they go, I wouldn't be surprised to see teams maybe potentially take a reach on Stevenson just because they know they have the need at corner, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, we need it. Let's take the gamble here.
It's interesting with the cornerback position because Tyreek Stevenson is a guy that showed up for me in one of my other drafts, and the selection came down because it's rich with cornerback at the cornerback position when it comes to the second round. DJ Turner's there, Clark Phillips, Julius Brent. I feel like I'm missing a guy, the guy from Texas A&M. I think it's Jalen Jones, I believe. The cornerback position is a plenty, and I went back and forth with Tyreek Stevenson and Clark Phillips because both of them are very, very lengthy athletes, and I feel as though when you look at the issue with the Bears last year was outside of Gordon and Johnson, the lack of athleticism at the position and length too, because Kendall Vildor is a smaller corner, and I definitely do think that it plays against them a lot of the times, especially with the good receivers he's going to go up against. Tyreek Stevenson having that guy who's lengthy and can defend the taller receivers and have an advantage over the smaller guys as well. I think that's a tremendous pick at 61. And hey, I mean, cornerback position is going to have to be addressed. I think I said this last week. Be prepared. And don't be upset either if you're not addressing the edge rusher or you're not addressing the defensive line or something like that. Be prepared because quarterback position is a need. And it wasn't addressed.
Yeah, and I mean, Stevenson's great in press coverage too, from what I've seen. I mean, he's great in press coverage, man-to-man, right off the line. But my favorite thing about him, he's physical. He is not afraid to stick his nose and lower his shoulder and hit. Like, you know, some corners, they're going to dive at the ankles. No, not Stevenson. And that is one of my favorite qualities you can find in a defensive back, regardless of the position. And I do think that, I mean, it's outside of his man coverage. He needs a little bit of work in zone, but that's a risk you're willing to take with a guy who projects as well as he does size-wise and physically.
And boy, would it help if you have a guy like Jalen Carter coming after the quarterback and stuff like that. So hopefully that is the case. Now, oh boy, with this 61st pick that I did something that's probably going to be fired. It's a boom or bust pick. Now, there is a good amount of reasoning behind this, and it's all because of the pursuit and the names that were attached to the Bears' interest in the offseason. At 61, I picked Zach Charbonnet. Now,
I thought about
here's the thing.
I thought about it.
maybe, just maybe, there's a slight bit of Michigan bias in this pick. But it's one of those things where you think about it, Ryan Poles was very heavy into the running back market.
Mhm.
Let's not forget that. And I think people tend to forget, regardless of how the running back position is not as valued anymore, it's still very, very much needed. You need a really good running back nowadays, because especially when you have a quarterback who is still in development and you want to give as much help as possible. You want to talk about a guy who runs as hard as possible, great north and south runner, can catch the ball out the backfield, and can block his ass off in pass pro. Zach Charbonnet, to me,
He's gonna
I
make someone
mean,
very happy. He is going to make someone very, very happy.
I'm telling you, and you have the Jahmyr Gibbs, you have the Zach Evans, you have a lot of good running backs in this draft. But let me tell you something. Zach Charbonnet should be mentioned way, way more often. And the thing is, I'm not sure where the hype has gone for him, because I know a lot of the time he was talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson when it came to UCLA, but Zach Charbonnet was just as big a part of the offense as he was. So it's kind of considered a cardinal sin to go running back this early. But I do think in due time, Zach Charbonnet is going to make a team very, very happy. And if it's the Bears, I'm happy with it too.
I wanted with the way you were hyping that pickup, I thought I was gonna just want to crucify you, eviscerate you. No, I don't. I thought about making that exact that exact same selection. So for my next pick here, I didn't love this pick, but I wanted to address the edge. So at 64, if I was doing trades in this instance, I would have accepted a trade because I received a trade. I forgot what team it was, but it was for a swap of picks in this year's draft and a second round pick next year.
Hmm.
I probably would have done it. I would have done it if it was not for the no trade clause in this one. But I took Derek Hall
Yes.
out of Auburn. He doesn't excite me per se as a pass rusher, but he is damn good in the run game, and he's quick. He has a quick burst off the ball. Leaves a little bit to be desired, but I am gonna chalk up his inability to develop really as a pass rusher at Auburn to the fact that I had how many coaches in his time there,
That's
and
a really good point.
I don't know if there's any validity to that, but I mean, I think he's 6'4", 260, good athlete. I'll take that. I'll take that at 4.5 40 from an edge rusher.
6'4", 250. I mean, it's very unlikely the Bears will get Tyree Wilson, but can that be the next best thing? I would say yes.
Yeah,
I would say yes.
kind of how I thought about it too.
The Bears are in love with Tyree Wilson. Well, more Matt Eberflus than anything, but they're in love with Tyree Wilson. It's because of the size. If you tell me that Derek Hall is going to be a rotational pass rusher or a guy who's going to come in on running situations, and then he eventually develops into a pass rusher, I think you take that at third round value.
Yeah.
And the thing is, obviously you would want the Bears to get a guy that you could have play all three downs at an edge rusher, because it's needed. And granted, it's not, I would say edge rusher is a need, but it's also very young talent on those edges that can develop. Now they'll probably benefit more with having a lot of more rotational pieces. And I think that's where Derek Hall will really, really make his money at. And so I've had the same kind of conundrum you had, because the edge rushers outside of McDonald and Felix Azuma and Odike, like and Adebo War, it's kind of rough after that. So it would be a choice between, do you want Mike Morris? Do you want BJ Ojolari? Do you want Derek Cole? And I don't think you go wrong with either of them, but it can't be an every down thing. But that's why they're in the third round too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe PFF let this guy drop to the third round. And I was shocked because of all the mock drafts that I've seen, and believe you me, I've seen a lot of them. I've seen this guy projected to be late first round, early second round, and I'm not sure if there's any buzz around why he's dropping in these simulators or whatnot. Maybe it doesn't even matter. I'm not sure. But what was the number one thing that people were clamoring for that's help for Justin Fields? Get him the biggest motherfucker in the room. At 64, Darnell Washington was on the board. I said, give me him. Give me him. Because I'm telling you, this obviously will come under it will come under the circumstances that Cole Kmet does not get an extension this offseason. Now, if that happens, you draft Darnell Washington, and I'm here to tell y'all something. He don't need to just be in 2 tight end sets. You could probably put him in a slide. You can put him on the outside. Do whatever heck you want with them. Because not only is he an excellent receiver with great range, great arms. I mean, he's the guy that you make on Road to Glory, because you can have the biggest SOB playing running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, linebacker, you name him. And he's in real life in front of you. If people want to sit there and say he will not be a good prospect for whatever reason, listen, I don't know what to tell you. But that guy, if giving Justin Fields another target, easy.
I love that pick. I've loved him throughout this entire process. And yes, I know the Bears went out and got Robert Tonyan to be the second tight end.
Right.
He is just a whole lot of whatever. Like, to me, like,
boom or bust.
He's fine. Like, he's fine for a secondary tight end, but I'd be a lot more excited to be watching Washington. I'll tell you that. That.
Yeah.
Much. And
yeah.
And his numbers, obviously, at Georgia, nothing flashy. Nothing flashy, but
context matters.
Exactly.
Brock Bowers is a better tight end, and he's probably going to be a top 10 pick as a tight end.
Yeah.
So, people got to keep that in mind. He of course, he's a physical freak. He's going to stand out, but of course, he was playing under a better tight end. So I want people to keep that in mind.
Oh, absolutely. And it almost. This is probably a shitty comparison, but just in terms of frame and everything, athletic ability, almost like this is going to sound crazy, a smaller Gronk in a way, just where kind of flew under the radar in college a little bit, and athletic freak. And I might be, it's a bit of a stretch. I will fully acknowledge that, but a little bit, I could see the similarities there, especially with where they're projected to go in the draft.
I mean, I can't disagree. I kid you not. I literally said I want to compare him to Gronk, but I don't want to put those expectations on him. But the frame.
It's not even the expectations. It's just from a pure physical frame and athletic ability, matchup nightmare. I mean, let's be real here. Gronk is a top 3 tight end all time. There's no debating that. But I believe he was like the 47th or like something like that, like second, third round pick, whatever he was. And just because he couldn't stay healthy, no one knew. And it was just a shitty situation for him at Arizona. And not that Washington was in a shitty situation at Georgia. It's just, like you mentioned, Bowers was in front of him.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of potential there, a lot of untapped potential there, I think.
Absolutely.
And where he could come into a situation and not have to be that main tight end right out of the gate, develop a little bit, get his feet wet. There's a lot of potential there.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
let's get weird with it. Let's get weird with it. I don't know about you. I got real weird with it in the first round. I didn't get very weird with it after the first round, but to start out with my trades, right? I traded the ninth overall selection to the Houston Texans for the 12th overall pick in Titus Howard, offensive tackle.
Okay.
I don't love Titus Howard. Don't get me wrong. He's fine.
Right.
He's fine. And to move back 3 picks and to get a guy who started every game of his NFL career, he's been okay. He's not been bad. I will take that. And because there was a few guys on the board there at that point in time who I wanted to take. And then when I get back to 12, both of those guys were still there.
Okay.
So I say, you know what? Let's look at these trade options because this draft is not shaping up how I expected it to go. Get a call on the phone from Baltimore Ravens. Move back to 22.
Ooh.
I acquire their 2024 second round pick, their first round pick this year, and Rashad Bateman. Bateman's a guy who just needs a change of scenery, in my opinion, and a change of scenery could do him a lot of good, I think.
Oh yeah.
And he's a guy who I know he's had his injury struggles, but I liked my position with where I was at. I had already gotten an offensive lineman in Howard. He could be a little bit of a stopgap. I got another second round pick next year. I added another receiver, and I haven't even drafted yet. I have not even made a pick yet. So with the 22nd overall pick, I selected Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern.
No way. 22. Wow. Wow.
Yep.
You weren't lying about getting weird. Wow.
I mean, I had never seen him fall that far in one of these, and I couldn't pass him up. I didn't expect him to be there at
How
that
could
point.
you?
I did not expect him to be there at that point, but he was one of the players I said I was thinking about at 12, and he was still there. So the other one who I had thought about, I just want to see where you went with it before I say the name, but he was still there as well.
Who is it?
No, I want to see where you took your first. I want to see if you picked him
Oh.
in advance. I want to see how weird you got with it.
So with first round, I said I don't want to do anything too crazy.
Okay.
Because premium positions matter to me, and I wanted to make sure that I got a particular guy while getting picks back. And
Okay.
it's amazing because this guy's a fast riser over the past couple of weeks. Louis Riddick said recently that he will be the best player in the draft. Shocking, stunning. Consider this guy before the combine,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I traded back with the Pittsburgh Steelers at 17. I gave them the 60. I gave them the 61st, and I gave them the 133 for 17 and 49. With 17 pick, I picked Darnell Wright. I mean, I was juggling back and forth, even with the one with no trade. I said, let's see. Do I want Paris Johnson? Do I want Darnell Wright? And I've heard a lot of buzz about Wright recently. I said, let me find some random Twitter page where I'm pretty sure they have a thread on what he did and whatnot. He shut down Will Anderson. Will Anderson is going to be a generational pass rusher in the NFL for the next 10 years. He has in the big games that he has played up to competition.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of player you will want. He is a physical freak. He's a mountain of a man. And I know for a fact that Poles saw that tape, saw him in person, saw him in the combine and said, man, he's going to make this very, very interesting. He's going to make this a very difficult situation for us. And I only did this trade because Jalen Carter was gone. I want Poles to do the same thing. If Jalen Carter's gone, you trade back.
No, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat, and I didn't say the name because the other name I was going to mention was Darnell Wright, and I had a feeling that you potentially that you were going to potentially take. And I like both of those prospects. So the reason that I went with Skronsky over Darnell Wright here was because I made that trade where I brought in Titus Howard. So there's not as much pressure on Skronsky to slide in at tackle, where we can see how he plays at guard. And if
Right.
it's unnatural, you can kick him right back out to tackle and see if the size really is an issue. Because let's be honest, next year is still a crapshoot, and it's still
Yeah.
we're still in year. This will be year 3, technically. Well, no, year 2. I'll put it at year 2 of the full blown rebuild.
Yes.
So I like the versatility that my selections gave me, but I like Darnell Wright as a prospect over Skronsky.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the frame
The
that Paul's
frame,
looking for.
especially. I mean, Wright is, I mean, 340 probably, 6'6",
Yeah.
340, and he's not a bad athlete. I mean, he is the modern day NFL tackle.
Yes.
And I mean, he anchored that Tennessee offensive line, and that
Yeah.
Tennessee offense was
Electric.
I mean, the most, I will say that team, their offense was the most fun I've had watching college football offense operate since the Joe Burrow LSU national championship team. And I know that's not a long time, but you find those random college football offenses that, you have a ton of fun. That LSU offense is going to be hard to pass up ever. But
I'd be shocked if someone does. Shocked.
But I mean, that Tennessee team this year was just incredible to watch. Incredible to watch.
All you have to do is turn on the Alabama game.
Yep.
All you have to do. That was a masterclass performance.
All you need to know.
Masterclass. It was beautiful to watch.
So I like how both of our drafts have shaped up so far. I'm liking this a lot for both of us. So I stayed put at 53.
Good.
I don't know about you in the second round. I stayed put, and I went double Northwestern.
Yeah.
Went double Northwestern.
Yeah.
Double A. I'm not even going to even attempt to pronounce that name until he's on the Bears. If you're listening to this show, you like the draft, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I just love the versatility that he could provide to a defensive line. I mean, you can line him up inside to rush the passer because he's so quick. You could line him up as an outside defense tackle. You can line him up on the edge. His size leaves a little bit to be desired. There's no denying that. But what he's able to do on passing downs on the interior, it's going to be special at this next level, I think. And I think he's going to end up making himself a lot of money, especially just because of all the different places he's going to end up being able to line up on the defensive line and at the pro level. And his size too. Yes, he's a little bit on the smaller side to be lining up on the inside. And I know I made a comment earlier that defense tackles are shifting away from being these 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guys. But when he's that quick, he's gonna have leverage on these offensive linemen being that much smaller and that quick. And it's at the point of attack, I like what he's able to do.
Yes.
And especially I've watched more Northwestern football than I'd like to admit, being from Chicago. And
I pray for you.
Yeah, I mean, not a Northwestern fan, but it's on. There's nothing else to say. It's on the TV. Right. But he always stood out to me. He stood out to me, even though his numbers never flashy. There's just those game disruptors that will stand out to you, and he was one of those guys. And I can't believe I went double Northwestern with my first 2 selections. I don't know if I'll be honest, I doubt that's ever even happened in the NFL, but I did it.
And I'm sure the state of Illinois would cheer you, because I'm pretty sure there's all types of fans that just love local guys and stuff like that.
I mean, how many guys at 280 are running sub 4.5 40s as defensive linemen? It doesn't happen.
They're mutants. They're mutants. That's the best way to say it. And considering we both have the same second pick, I'm just going to I got him at 49, which seems way more plausible now, considering he is considered one of those fast risers. And I think I'm going to be very upset that if the Bears can't get him, I that's one of the guys that I fell in love with seeing his combine, seeing the versatility that he brings, and like you said, the size is an issue, but I do think when you can have that type of versatility on the line, you'll take that. You'll take
Oh
it.
yeah.
At the end of the day, at the pro level, he's going to get better. He's going to get better,
Mhm.
and how you can use him is what's going to give defenses fits, and that's you love that. So I'm going to go into my 53rd pick,
Okay.
which again, another shocking person that I couldn't believe was still on the board. And funny enough, right before we went on the air here, I saw a thread of him, which I didn't do a lot of research on him, admittedly, but I always saw his name pop up, maybe late first round. Kalijah Cansey from Pittsburgh. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. He may be the best contingency plan just in case double A is not drafted.
Mm-hmm.
They might be the same player, and it's kind of scary when you look on tape, and they are very, very similar. I think Cansey's a little bit faster with his hands, and he seems undersized for a defensive tackle, but you almost salivate what you could see with them two on the line, whether it be them on the edge or them inside. That defensive line is going to be scary now. And that was one of the things that people were worried. Like, hey, is Walker going to work out? You got Billings, you got Green. Like, is that going to make a difference? Probably not. But you get two athletic freaks on your defensive line, and now a lot of people are worrying about, throwing the football. So
Mm-hmm.
if Kalijah Cansey drops that far, I will be stunned. But I do think, under the circumstances of how the draft is going, in my case, you can't pass him up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with my next selection, I didn't love this selection. It's not particularly an area of need, I don't think, but I like the prospects. At 61, I took Antonio Johnson, safety out of Texas A&M, and I just like the fact that we could combine a combination of him and Brisker, two physical freaks at the safety position, both good tacklers. They both hit like they're linebackers. And I know that Johnson's over the top coverage. It leaves a little bit to be desired. But the dude is 6'3", about 220, 225. I think he runs a 4.4. And the dude just hits. And it sounds so dumb, but my peanut brain goes back to watching NFL hardest hits compilations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it always goes back to the safeties coming up out of nowhere. And in my dumb meatball brain, I'm thinking, wow, a combination of Johnson and not Pritzker, that's the governor. Pritzker back there. I didn't love anyone on the board at that point, and I didn't love any of the trade options I had. And he's just great in the run. He's great in the run game. And I think that could be a quality selection, not an area of need, but strikes me as a polls guy. He's a big old motherfucker who plays physical football.
I do want people to be prepared for the eventual Eddie Jackson departure.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's exactly why I did it. Because
absolutely, that's why it's a very smart pick. You have to prepare for what's going to come a year after Eddie Jackson, and it may come sooner than people think. He has been not available the past couple of years, so you have to prepare for it. I do think safety in the second round is absolutely a reach. However, I am a proponent of getting a game changer when you see fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a year later, the pick of Jaquan Brisker in the second round just makes all the sense in the world. And it's even shocking he even lasted the second round, given what we have saw. But I do think for polls, the name of the game is kind of what you are trying to convey. Just get a playmaker, get playmakers, get a guy that fits the mold. and eventually, things will come into place. So that's a good pick.
And I think realistically, he he's more of a zone guy, obviously. I mean, he doesn't have a true position, I don't think. And I that is a little bit of a drawback on him, in my opinion. You don't know if he's gonna slide in at free or strong safety. Does he put on weight and potentially move the linebacker like we've seen with some safeties? I don't know. He's got some special teams potential as well, and I know that you're not drafting for that, but
Right.
he was a four-star prospect coming out of high school. I read, played both receiver. He's recruited as a receiver and a defensive back. So I mean, the game-changing ability, like you said, it is there. I don't love the pick. That's my least favorite pick I've made in this entire process, but the potential's there. The potential is there.
And by the way, before I go forward with my last pick, I know exactly what you mean, because when you get to that point in the second round where the John Michael Schmidt's off the board, and Cody Marks off the board, or Keanu Benson's off the board, and Derek Hall, BJ Ojolari, like it gets a little scary,
Yeah.
and to a point where you're like, man, we should probably trade back. So I get exactly what I get exactly what you mean, because that's why Zach Charbonnet had on my draft board. But hey, game changer, you get a game changer when you get one. But my last pick is a guy that you drafted in your non-trade. Tyreek Stevenson, I think, would just be just the most perfect fit on the Bears. It's a seamless fit. And with this pick, I had to go back and forth with him and Julius Brents, because at that point, Clark Phillips was off the board and Jalen Jones was off the board. So I said, let's go with Tyreek Stevenson, which, by the way, I think you can't go wrong with either. I love Julius Brents as a prospect. He's one of those guys that he's a little. I think he's a bit undersized. Maybe I don't know if I have him confused with somebody else, but I think with the defense that they're trying to build in Chicago is kind of similar to what you saw, in the Urlacher Peanut Summer days, where they were being coached up by Ron Marinelli, and one of the unsung heroes of that defense was Tim Jennings.
Yep.
And I think they will probably seek that Tim Jennings, even though he's an undersized corner, but we'll see, because I do think the combination of having very, very good intangibles, I think that is really what's going to come into play, and that's why I went with Tyreek Stevenson.
I like that selection. I mean, obviously, I like that selection. I took in my other drafts, and he is getting to the point where, in my opinion, I might be upset if he doesn't end up on the Bears.
Yeah.
And I don't like to get that way with draft prospects, because I mean it's a needle in a haystack. You never know what you're gonna
Right.
you don't know what to expect. But it's just one pick, in my opinion, that makes too much sense in the middle rounds. But Stevenson also screams to me a Bill Belichick, like he's a Bill Belichick type selection, where
Yeah.
like almost like in that Devin McCourty fashion from the Patriots,
Mhm.
however many years ago that was, where who the fuck is this guy that he just traded up to take in the first
Right.
round? And
Right.
obviously Stevens a little bit more well known of a prospect than McCourty, but I feel like he's a guy who we're gonna see a late rise on, and I will make me upset. But
Yeah. Which I wouldn't be too upset, because again, quarterback position is rich. So
oh
I
yeah,
would be
oh
too
yeah.
upset, but yeah, he's one of those guys. I'm just like, yeah, he would fit perfect. Like he's a
Mhm.
perfect fit.
So my next selection, I acquired this one in my trade. I went with the big man in the middle, Sayaki Ika. Out of
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he is Danny Shelton 2.0. I think you could say. I just the prototypical nose guard. And I just yes, his snap count is not going to be high at that position. But when he's in there, think about what he'll be able to do with that size to occupy blockers, occupy offensive linemen. I mean, people don't, I mean, they fail to realize sometimes just how important a big motherfucker like that in the middle can be to
Yeah.
free up space for your linebackers. And with how big he is, how strong he is, he's gonna be able to hold that down in the middle. He'll be able to create holes. He's more athletic than you would think for being 350 pounds or whatever he is. And being honest, he's probably going to cut some weight in the pros. And
Probably.
you would assume, but he's a space eater. He's a space eater, and for better or worse, that's something that this team is missing at this point in time. At least a true impact guy like who could do that, and I think he has potential to be there. And be that
No.
guy.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was all you.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, by the way. And if he falls to the third round, like that'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
But just imagining him and Billings in the middle
Yep.
is absolutely unfreaking fair. It's unfair.
Yep.
And the thing is too, I know the class for D tackles is not very rich, but I think that absolutely plays into the Bears' favor when you get down to it, especially with it's not a real position where people are they don't value it as much. They really don't. And that works out. That works out. It really does, especially because I would avoid this issue. I would avoid the issue of feeling the need to take a D tackle and not getting the best D tackle. And because my preference is to have Jalen Carter at 9. Like that would be my preference. Because I think a lot of my fear is the potential that he'll fall to the Lions. The Lions can take him. Like that would kill me. That would kill me inside.
Yep.
But it's a position that I think it's going to be a need, but I just love the fact that now there's so much more versatility with what you can do on certain, downs in the game. And I think that's really what they're looking for, but it'll be nice to have that one impact player in the middle.
So how are you wrapping things up here? I know we have a few more picks, but what would you go with for your next selection here?
Oh, that was my last one. That was my last one. Yeah, because I did a 201 because we had the same guy.
You're right. So then I ended up with the 98 selection then, and I took a cornerback, took Jartavius Wright out of Illinois. And he's a good tackler. And the only thing I don't like about him watching, I watched, being an Illinois alum, I've seen him play. He can get overly aggressive at times. And that's something that you need to rein in as a corner because, it will result in you getting burnt. But a freak athlete, an absolute freak athlete when it comes to what he's able to do. In comparison to other corners in this year's draft, using the 84th percentile for 40 time, 100th percentile for vertical, 96th percentile for 10-yard split, 98th percentile for broad jump. The measurables are there, and with the 96th pick, I think that's the type of guy you take that chance on.
So, admittedly, I have not done my research on him. So, tell me this. Is he a guy that is a bit overshadowed considering who he is opposite of?
Of course. Those two were the best corner duo in the Big Ten. In my opinion, it wasn't even close. And a lot could be, there's a reason that defense was the number 1 defense in the Big Ten last year. It was a top 10 defense nationally. What they were able to do on the outside, it was special. And he was a 5th-year senior, but he only allowed a quarterback rating of 70 throughout his entire college career.
Wow.
So the potential is there, and just because of his athleticism, and he's not a big guy, but he's also someone you could see potentially transitioning to safety. And I know I already took Antonio Johnson, but there's positional versatility here. And I like that out of my defensive backs. That's never a bad thing. Never a bad thing at all.
Okay. And get a 98 pick is just gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah. So I would not take him any sooner than that, just because his size does concern me a little bit. I mean,
Right.
he's 5'11", 190. So
he's kind of like DJ Turner size a little bit.
But it still concerns me at the end of the day, just a tad, because if we're being honest, he's probably 5'9". I mean, he's probably not actually 5'11". So we'll see. But at 98, I like the value. So I know we said at the beginning of this show, Brandon and I were going to walk through here, and we were going to do a Pro Football Network 3-round selection here for the Bears, as weird as we want to get with it.
Let's go.
All right. Brandon, what speed would you like this draft to be on?
Fast.
What I thought.
Fast.
All right, here we go. We are not looking. Looks like we are going to be trading back here. So it went Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Jalen Carter, Anthony Richardson, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez, Broderick Jones, and Tyree Wilson. So we have 4 trade offers here, Brandon.
All right.
The first being picks 13 and 43 from the Jets for the 9th overall selection.
Oh.
The next being pick 9 and 103 for picks 12 and 44 from the Falcons. All right, that one's kind of piquing my interest a little bit here. From the Buccaneers, pick 19 and Devin White. And then the 4th and final is I'm not even reading this one. We're not taking it. We're not taking that one.
Oh man. So I got the Falcons one is very enticing.
I agree, especially with what is left on the board here.
But could you afford to go back to that 13 and also get a 43 and get 3 second-round picks too? That to me seems like the better pick. I would accept the Jets one.
All right, let's ride. So we lost out on Paris Johnson, is who the Jets traded up to select. They took Miles Murphy, went 10, Skoronski went 11, and Devin Witherspoon went 12. We have 3 trade offers here. First being from the Chiefs, we trade pick 13 and get 31, 63, 95, 178, and their 2024 second. No, thank you.
No, thank you. I'm good.
Reject that. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Pick 13 and 148 for pick 21 and Austin Eckler from the Chargers.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh. We'll keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
And then we trade pick 13 and 136 for 14 and New England's 2024 second.
No. What pick is the Chargers again?
21.
Damn, that's enticing as hell. Get him a weapon. Trade him.
Do it. I'm happy you said that. All right, we're gonna make a selection here. I'm not looking at any more draft picks.
All right, let's do it.
Let's make it. And all of them were dog shit, anyways. All right. So what we're working with here, I think I know who we should select here, but I'm gonna run through. I mean, I think we'd be foolish to not select Darnell Wright here.
Yeah, if he's on the board, you absolutely take him.
All right, let's ride. Darnell Wright, you are a Chicago Bear.
Damn. Austin Eckler.
I know that he had asked his agent to potentially look for trades, But I mean, I love that pick. I love that trade.
I mean, how could you? How could you not?
I
That would just be taking full advantage of the lack of value for running backs. If you
Yep.
want, if you want to do that, sure, go right ahead. I'll be follow right along.
So we have 2 trade offers for the 43rd selection. Picks 86, 124, and Baltimore's 2024 seconds. Which I'm gonna. I mean it. No,
The 2024 second is enticing, but I'm gonna pass.
I would agree. And then we have Washington Commanders. I can 43 and 136 for 47 and 97.
I'm doing that.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
doing that.
Pleasure doing business with you. Wow, no offers.
Okay.
So at 47, we have a few options here. Darnell Washington,
Okay.
Emmanuel Forbes,
Interesting pick.
AA, John Michael Schmitz, Joe Tippmann. Those are the guys who kind of Keon White. That's kind of who stands out to me at this point in time. I think we passed on Darnell Washington for the time here. I don't think that's who we select. I would love to see. So far, I mean, we've acquired Eckler. We got our guy at tackle in the first round. We got Washington and Darnell Wright. Excuse me, I'm reading Washington. Darnell Washington on the page here. Are you feeling double offensive line, or do you think we address the defensive side of the football?
So considering because it's tough because that the 47 in the 51st. Now there's a lot that can happen between those picks. So it's like, damn, what do you do? Now, I think considering I know Cody Whitehair is not the best center, but he's a center you can rely on.
You can rely on, exactly.
So I will go Keon Whitehair.
All right. Let's do it. I'm going to deny this pick this trade without even reading. Yep. Yeah, no, none of these. 53. Okay, so we still have AA. We still have John Michael Schmitz, and we still have Emmanuel Forbes.
Oh, man.
Derek Hall, an option. Julius Brents.
Honestly, John Michael Schmitz is so enticing, but Emmanuel Forbes is also very enticing too.
I'm going to be honest. I can't believe that Forbes is still on the clock here, or not on the board here.
Normally, when you have to say that about somebody, that's probably your cue to pick them. Let's get it.
All right, gotta reject that trade because it's dog shit. 61 for our 3rd second-round pick. I would say we take your guy at running back here, but we've acquired Austin Eckler. It's not necessary.
Nah, not necessary. Who's now? What's the board looking like?
So we have Steve Avila, Cody Mock, Derek Hall, Rashee Rice, Antonio Johnson, Keanu Benton, Ika, Sidney Brown, Tyreek Stevenson.
I think we go defensive trenches here.
I think so too. I'm happy we're on the same page here. I think we go with that.
I mean, if you want to go Benton, you go Siaki. I mean, either one. I will go Benton, but I will see where your head is at.
I think we ride with Benton just because it gives you a little bit more versatility than I. I think we get a little bit more versatility there.
All right, let's do that.
So we were just offered for the 64th selection.
Okay.
We trade 64 and 133 for the 49ers, pick 99 and their 2024 second.
No.
That's a second round pick that's going to probably be right around where we're drafting right now.
I'm good.
So, majority of these same guys still on the board here. there's a lot of ways we could go here. We could go address the offensive line again. We could go wide receiver, cornerback. We could get Stevenson, go double corner.
Who is on the board for offensive line?
Let's pull it up. So at tackle, we have Cody Mock and then Warren McClendon are the top two, and then you have Blake Freeland.
Blake Freeland's has been a name I've been seeing a lot recently. What about offensive? What about guards?
Guard, we're sitting with Avila from
Still?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Avila's there. Emil Ikior from Alabama. I know I mispronounced that if you're somehow listening to this. McClendon Curtis from Chattanooga. And
he's been getting some buzz too.
As he is. I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch still at this point to snag him. But and then if we want to look at the center position, you got Luke Weipler from Ohio State, and then Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas are the top two on the board.
So I know the Bears are pretty high on Stromberg. He had a visit.
Yep.
Man, it's kind of tough. Because
at this point, do we go with a little bit more of a project at tackle?
I was thinking that, or because there's a guy, there's a wide receiver out there. I don't know if it's going to be a kind of a reach, but two guys, Jaden Reed and Jonathan Mingo. One of the two? Maybe it might be too early, but
I think out of those, they're both obviously still on the board. I mean, Reed is. He reminds me of Mooney a little bit.
Yeah.
Just from a size perspective, at least. So I don't know necessarily if that's what we should take here. Let's see, how many picks do we have left here in the third round? Because I know we're just doing the 3 rounds. I'm trying to see if we have any other picks here. I'm trying to remember. So we have one more third round selection.
Okay.
That's at 97.
Okay.
So we have a gap here.
Yeah, so I think wide receiver can wait.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because offensive tackle has been addressed. You know what? I think this is where we address the guard or the center position.
I think we go with Vila.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking he's even on the board still.
He's still on the board. I mean, obviously not an elite athlete or size. I mean, he can play center, he can play guard. I like the selection.
Yeah.
All right, Steve Avila, 64th selection. Welcome to Chicago.
Right.
Chargers are calling us again to make another trade. 97 and 218 for 125 and their 2024 third. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no, not needed.
And 97 and 258 for Washington's 118 and 136.
That's too far. I'm good. See, that's the pick you make if you really, really are not interested in anybody on the board.
Yep. And we have receivers at this point that we would like to select. And it's our last pick since we're only doing 3 rounds. So I'm just click reject here.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at this receiver position. There are both of the men you mentioned still on the board. A.T. Perry, excuse me.
I know the Bears like him.
Tyler Scott still on the board.
Good, he's good.
And then aside from Jaden Reed and Jonathan Mingo, behind him you've got Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State, Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia.
Whew. You know, side note, it's one of those things where if they had a pick in the late 3rd round, I think you're living. You're living. If you want to go wide receiver, and it's interesting because they've run a lot of top 30 visits for the wide receiver position. So yeah, but I will say, I think Jonathan Mingo's ceiling is so freaking large, and he didn't really get to show his potential because Ole Miss quarterback situation was not very good. I would take him.
I'm in agreement with you. I was hoping you would say Mingo. So that's going to leave us with 3-round results of getting Darnell Wright at 21, 47, Keon White, 53, Emmanuel Forbes, 61, Keanu Benton, 64, Steve Avila, 97, Jonathan Mingo, and Austin Eckler at running back via the Los Angeles Chargers.
If that ain't a beautiful draft haul, I just do not know what it is. And if the Bears somehow you come across this, I'm a call away.
Yep.
I'm a call away.
Yep, we're right here.
Holla at me. I got nothing to do.
That haul ended up being a lot better than I expected.
Way better. Way better. It just makes you think, even without big trades, they're still in a good position to get a lot of good players. And that makes me genuinely happy.
And I'm gonna say it with this draft, we also acquired DJ Moore. So
yep.
I mean, in the same draft, you're getting Austin Eckler and DJ Moore to come in and help your offense out. What more can you ask for getting help for Justin Fields? I don't know.
I don't know.
So I mean, draft right around the corner. This is a good concept, Brandon. I'm happy we did it. But with as much optimism as we've had on this entire show, we got to get into the negative because that's what this show is all about.
Yeah.
Both of our baseball teams are just dog shit. Complete and utter dog shit. We knew it was coming. Deep down, we knew it was kind of coming, and we pointed out the very obvious flaws. And what do you know? They're all true.
The Cardinals are 8-11 today. They won on Wednesday for those who are going to be watching on Thursday. I have never seen, and I've been watching a whole lot of Cardinals. I'm a Cardinal fan. I've been watching a lot of games, and I have never seen a team that consistently gets constructed to be somewhat good. I would say great because they haven't been great, for obvious reasons, but I've never seen a team so talented as this one offensively that makes everything look difficult. They make everything look difficult. And I hope I'll get this number right. They have had the bases loaded, I think, either 18 or 19 times. You know how many times they've gotten a hit with the bases loaded?
Since I'm a White Sox fan, I'm used to disappointment like this, so I'm gonna go with 3 or 4.
Oh, you're being way too generous. You're being way too generous.
One.
And a lot of people are chalking up to bad luck. You can't stink and have bad luck.
No,
that's just being stink. So I said that the Cardinals pitching was going to be a problem. They have nobody, and I mean nobody that you can rely on to get you a bounce back win, a game where you can expect 7-8 strikeouts for a guy consistent. They don't have that. They don't have it, and it doesn't help that you have a manager who does not know how to manage a bullpen. Shocker for our Cardinal manager. It's the same thing every single year, and the thing is, we can sit here and talk about the personnel. We can sit here talking about manager. There's one guy that is responsible for this. And it's the same guy I've called out numerous of times on this show. If I hear one more person talk about John Mozeliak is a genius, I might actually punch you in the face. This guy constructs these rosters and he drafts so good. Oh my goodness. Well, the last time you got out of the first round, which by the way, the Cardinals have made the playoffs in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and probably not 2023. But anyways, they made the playoffs. The last time they got past the first round, it was in 2019. And you want to know how that series started in 2019 against the eventual World Series champion Washington Nationals? They almost got no hit by Anibal Sanchez. They got swept in that series, by the way. So they haven't been able to get out the first round. And now he's off to a horrible start this season, which I would like to think that maybe there is very lasting effects from getting swept by the Phillies in a farewell season for Yachty and Pujols, or you just have a manager that you just don't want to play for. But it's also, I'm ultimately going to chalk it up to this roster just simply is not good enough. It's not good enough. And I don't know where I don't know where the help is going to come, because the problem is you have a general manager who is so passive and wants to get the low-hanging fruit guys that are 37 and have an ERA that's bordering on 3 and 4. I'm just tired. I know this is going to sound completely just overreactionary. This team is not making the playoffs this year, and I am comfortable saying that.
I am already in the same boat with the White Sox. So I feel your pain. There has just been nothing positive about the White Sox. You've already had your supposed three of your 4 supposed offensive superstars have already hit the IL for a stint. Eloy Jimenez has already gone and been back off, and he looks completely lost. He looks atrocious at the plate right now, and I can't even believe I'm saying this. A trip to AAA probably would do him some good. And this is a former Silver Slugger winner.
Yeah.
He just looks that lost at the plate. Then you have Yohan Moncada, who was on fire. Finally looked like he was back on track. Started with the World Baseball Classic, made the All-World Baseball Classic team, hitting over 400 before he got hurt. Well, guess what? He retroactively was placed on the IL after 5 days of not playing because the Sox are incompetent and don't know how to handle that. Once again, we still haven't learned how to use and manage injured players. Then you have Tim Anderson, who's been out because he got tackled in a rundown on accident. So, I mean, just more or less of the same. Then you have Joe Kelly, who has just been absolutely dog shit atrocious when he did pitch this year. He hurt himself getting out of the bullpen in Pittsburgh coming into the game.
Oh, Lord.
So let me give this to you straight, Brandon. The White Sox have a $40 million plus bullpen, the most expensive bullpen in Major League Baseball, and it's really not even close. They also currently have the worst Major League bullpen ERA.
Oh, man.
And their best reliever right now goes by the name of Jimmy Lambert. You ever heard his name?
I've heard his name, but I'm not familiar with his game.
Okay, yeah, no, he's just been a guy who's just been complete dog water, who's been up and down between the minor leagues. I don't know still how he still has options. I don't know how he still has options. And he's leading the team in appearances right now. Kendall Graveman making $8 or $9 million has been atrocious. And this is going to sound really, really bad, but people keep saying, wait for Garrett Crochet and Liam Hendricks to come back and fix this bullpen. This is going to sound horrible, but the fact that it is April 19th, the day we are recording this, and you are banking off a guy coming back from Tommy John and a guy who just finished chemotherapy to come fix your bullpen. It is April 19th, and that sounds horrible to say, and I'm sure they'll be good when they're back, but that's just not a successful formula.
Yes,
There's
right.
no other way to go about that. And it's just, they don't look like they want to be there. They don't look like they want to be there. And, Pedro Grifol was supposed to be some analytical genius. That's why the Sox hired him. And at times he looks more lost than Tony La Russa last year. So there was probably a reason all these teams never even interviewed and hired him to be their manager. So I don't know. I'm already counting down the days till the Sox blow it up at the trade deadline again, and we restart because you have a starting pitching rotation with no left-handed starters. You have Dylan Cease, who's been great so far this year. He's had one iffy start. Lance Lynn, who is just completely cooked. I mean, his arm is about to fall off, it seems already. Lucas Giolito, great bounce back start. Michael Kopech has been Mike Clevenger. Statistics from a 500-foot view, pretty good. Looks like he's statistically the second best starter on the team right now. His expected ERA right now is up near 7.
Yikes.
So it's only a matter of time. It is only a matter of time. And it really looks like the only person who consistently wants to be out there for the White Sox is Jake Berger, a guy who should have made the opening day roster, showing once again how incompetent the White Sox front office is. leading 5 home runs, hitting about 350, and the only guy who wants to be there.
I can say with the just utmost sincerity that I am not happy with baseball season right now. I'm actually like checked out. I'm actually
And
checked out.
I'm not gonna say I'm checked out, but I am close to being checked out, which I can't believe I'm saying, and it's not even May.
Right.
If you would have told the both of us at the start of this season that the Chicago Cubs would be more exciting than our two teams, probably our two teams combined, I wouldn't believe it.
That makes my chest hurt. I'm not gonna lie. It makes my chest hurt.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna sit here singing their praises after sweeping the A's. Anyone could beat the A's at
No,
this point.
no, I'm not saying that. No, but I'm sitting here as a White Sox fan who is a fan of a team who has yet to win a season series and is going into Tampa for a weekend trip. So
God bless.
yeah. So it's gonna go from 7-12 to I don't remember if it's a 3-game set, so probably 7-15.
All I know is this. Well, I'm gonna say this before we part, but I have so many people that are saying to me, "It's only April. It's early. Like the Cardinals do this every
Games matter.
year.
They matter just the same in April as they do in September. I don't understand it.
I want to tell these people, and I'm not saying with all due respect. I'm not saying with all due respect, because I mean with no due respect, I mean this. Go to hell. I don't care about your opinion. Do not tell me about my team. I know my team more than you think you know my team.
Yep.
Please. This team is not making the playoffs. I will scream that we won't make the playoffs. And even if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But guess what? There is no championship in sight.
You'll still be okay being wrong.
Please.
Yeah, it's hard times here at the Goonery, but at least we have the NFL draft to look forward to here. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Goonery. If you made it this far, appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show, and we will be back next time.